Hello all, welcome to session 50 of CSharp.net training series. In this session, I am going to explain and practically demonstrate about inheritance in C Sharp. So let's get started. First of all, what is inheritance? Inheritance, in simple terms, is a mechanism, okay? Is a mechanism in which the child class acquires the properties from a parent class. Okay. In simple words, what is inheritance? Is a mechanism in which the child class acquires the properties from a parent class. So what is this child class? What is this parent class? We already heard about the classes, right? How to create classes in C Sharp, we know. But what about this child class and parent class? Why we are calling them as child and parent? Here, simple words, guys. A child class gets the properties from the parent class. Like in real world also, okay? In every family, guys, we have grandparents. Under grandparents, we have parents. Under parents, we have children. Under children, we have grandchildren, right? So what happens here in this case of real world families, where your parents will be inheriting the properties from the, right? The properties, you know, right? What are properties means in real world? The parents, your parents will acquire the properties from their grandparents, and you as children of the parents will acquire the properties from your parents, right? And your children will acquire the properties from you. This is what is a hierarchy, right? So this is what is inheritance. Whatever I told you in real world is also inheritance, where, okay, you are inheriting the properties from your parents, okay, and your children are inheriting properties from you. This is called as inheritance in real world. Same thing can be applied to the C sharp, where the child classes can acquire the properties from the parent class. Here, where children can acquire the properties from parent, right? Similarly, in C sharp, okay, as part of inheritance, the child classes can acquire the properties from a parent class. What does a class contain generally? What does a class generally contain? Class contains some class members, right? What are the members of the class? Variables and methods, right? Class generally contains variables and methods. Let's say there is a class containing some variables and methods, okay? And if you create one more class, if you create one more class and you make this class a child class of this class, what happens? The properties which belong to the parent class will now belong to the child class. This is what is inheritance in C sharp case. Let me explain all this stuff practically, okay? Let me explain all this stuff practically for you, where I'll create two classes, class 1 and class 2. I'll make this class 1 as a parent class of the class 2, okay, and see how the properties of the class 1 are being inherited by the class 2. I'll show you all this practically. So inside this namespace, I'll create a class, public class, class name, say class 1. I'll give the name of the class as class 1. One class I created. Inside this class, I'll create some sample variable and method, guys, okay? One sample variable and method I'll create. I'll say int a, okay, and here one method, I'll say public void sample method, okay? I'll simply say public void sample method like this. Console.writeLine, console.writeLine, inside sample method of, inside sample method, that's it, okay? Now this variable a, I'll give some value if required. It's not compulsory to give value, but I'll give some value. This variable a is having some value 9, okay, and this is a method. This is a method, guys. This is a method which is having sample method having some sample statement. It's one class. Now I'll create one more class. I'll say class, public class, class 2, I'll say. Okay. So public class, class 2. In this class also I have to create variables and methods, but I have to create the same variables and methods. Okay. Let's say in this class also I have to create the same variables. Int a is equal to 9, and same method I want to create, public void sample method, console.writeLine, inside sample method. You see here, whatever the variables and methods that are there in the class 1 are same as the variables and methods that are there in the class 2. So what is the use of duplicating this code here? Already this variable and method has been created in the class 1, right? Again, why you are creating the same variable and method in the class 2? This is not a good approach. So remove that. Okay. Instead of doing that, what we can do is we can make this class 2 a child class of the class 1. Okay, we can make this class 2 a child class of the class 1. How to make this class 2 as a child class of the class 1? So there is a syntax. Okay, class 2, put a colon symbol and give the name of the parent class, that is class 1. The moment you say class 2 colon class 1, now class 1 is a parent of the class 2. Class 2 is a child of the class 1. That means all the properties, even though it's not visible here, all these properties, that is variables and methods of the class 1, now belong to the class 2 also. How can I confirm that? Here guys, I'll create one more class, public class. I'll name the class as demo class. Inside this demo class, I'll create a method, public svm, public static void main. Inside this method guys, okay, inside this method, I'll create an object for the class 1. Okay, first I'll create the object directly for the class 1. Class 1 c1 is equal to new class 1. Like this, I'll create an object for the class 1. And now using this object reference, I want to access these variables and methods of this class. Okay, in order to access the variables and methods of a class from other class, we have to create an object for the class, right? And using the object reference, we can access. I'll say console.writeLine c1 dot. Here I'll not get anything because I have to make this variable as public, then I can get it. Just make it public c1 dot a, that's it, c1 dot a. So why we have to make it public and all, I'll explain later guys. For now, just blindly make it public, okay, so that you can access. And if you have to call that method, then c1 dot, what is the name of the method guys? Sample, right? Sample method. Okay, you see I can access the variables and methods of this class 1 using this object. That means variable and method belongs to the class 1. Okay, this proves that the variable and method that I'm accessing here by creating an object for the class 1 belong to the class 1. Now if I run this code, let me run this code. Okay, so here I have to add console.readline, otherwise it will not stop. The output will not be visible. So we have to say console.readline. Now run it again. You see 9 got printed. That is a value of a, that is 9 got printed, and inside sample method got printed because the method is being called. When the method is being called, automatically the statement that is inside the method will be called. Now guys, does class 2 has anything? Does class 2 has anything? And I'll remove this making the class 2 as a child of the parent class. Okay, it's not normal class now. Class 2 is a normal class. So what I will do here is I'll say class 2 c2 is equal to new class 2. Like this, I'll create an object for the class 2. Now using this object reference, can I access anything? Let's try that. Console.writeLine c2 dot, nothing will come. Okay, or I cannot say, I cannot even call the method c2 dot sample. There is no sample method also. Okay, I cannot access the variable and method because you see class 2 doesn't have anything and it is a normal class, right? But if I want to inherit all these properties of this parent, by making this class 1 as a parent of the class 2, I want to inherit all these properties without recreating them. What I will do here is I'll put a colon here and say class 1. The moment I say class 2 colon class 1, class 1 becomes the parent class of the class 2. And now here guys, using this object reference of the class 2, okay, see what happens. Class 2 dot a, now you can access. Earlier it was not accessible. Now c2 dot sample. You see all these variables and methods which are inherited by the child class can be accessed by using the object reference of the child class. Their class 2 is a child class. Now that means that the variable and method not only belongs to the parent class but also belong to the child class now. Even though we are not recreating this same variable and method here, the class 2 now has the same variables and methods, so it is getting from the parent class 1. That's why by creating an object for the class 2, I'm able to access the variable and method here. And run this code. You see 9 and inside sample method got printed. It's working fine. So hope guys you understood the parent child relationship here and how to make a particular class a child class of another class. You see class 2 colon class 1 means class 1 will become the parent class and class 2 becomes the child class. It's a parent child relationship where child will inherit all the properties of the parent class. That is all the variables and methods of the parent class will be inherited by the child class, and we don't have to recreate them again in the child class. Fine. So parent class, there are other names for the parent class, guys. We can either call the parent class or here class 1 is a parent class, right? We can either call it as a parent class or we can call that as a base class or super class also. And coming to the child class, Okay, here class 2 is a child class. We can either call it as a child class or we can call it as a derived or subclass. Okay, here base or superclass or parent is a parent class. Child or derived or sub, different names. Okay, some people will, while explaining, right, they'll say base class and derived class. They'll use different terminology. Instead of saying parent and child, they'll say base and derived. Some people say superclass and subclass. Okay, while explaining. So we should have an idea of what are the different names for parent and child classes. Okay. Now fine guys, that's all good so far. Okay, now you understood what is inheritance and how a child class inherits the properties of the parent class and how to make it possible in CSharp using the syntax and all. It's very clear for you. Now what I will do is I'll just go with the constructors concept now. Okay, so during inheritance, let's say the this is a parent class has a constructor and child class has a constructor. What will happen? What will happen if the parent and child class has their own constructors? So how to create a constructor in the child class, class 2? So how to create constructor? We'll start with public and it doesn't have any return type, so void or something I should not put, but the name of the constructor should be name of the same as the name of the class in which it is being created, like this. Okay, it looks similar to method, but the name of the constructor should match with the name of the class and it should not have any return type. So here I'll say uh, class to constructor, class to constructor is called. Okay, for sample I am writing these statements. Similarly here also, the class 1 also I'll create a constructor, guys. Class 1 also I'll create a constructor. Public name of the constructor should be same as the name of the class under which it is being created. Console.writeline. Here I'll say uh, class 1 constructor is called. Class 1 constructor is called like this. Okay. Class 2 constructor is called. Class 1 constructor is called. Now here, so here what we do here is I'll simply, okay, so class the child class has a constructor and a parent class has a constructor. Now I'll simply create an object for the child class, that is class 2. Class 2 C2 is equal to new class 2. I don't do anything else, just I'll create an object. What will happen when I create an object for the this class 2, that is child class here? The constructor will be called or not? You see this particular this is a constructor calling statement. It will call the constructor. Where is this constructor? Class 2. That is this particular class 2 constructor will be called and class 2 constructor is called should be printed in the output. You may be thinking, but it will not happen. So what happens internally is when you create an object for the child class and the constructor of the child class is being called. So before the constructor of the child class is executed, this constructor will automatically call the parent class constructor. Okay, before the constructor of the child class gets executed because of this statement here, this particular constructor automatically calls the parent class constructor. That means first, even though I'm creating an object and calling the child class constructor here, first parent class constructor will be called, then child class constructor will be called. Okay, even though this is calling the child class constructor, constructor before getting executed will call parent class constructor. So what will be the output? First class 1 constructor is called, after that class 2 constructor is called, will be printed in the output. Just see that in action. Class 1 constructor is called, class 2 constructor. You may be expecting only class 2 constructor is called, right? But it will not happen. Here, the child class constructor will automatically invoke the parent class constructor. Okay, before the child class constructor executes, the parent class constructor will be executed. This is one thing you have to understand. Okay, child class constructor implicitly calls, automatically calls the parent class constructor. When in case of inheritance, when the parent and child class has their own constructors, in that case, when you create an object for the child class constructor will be called, but child class constructor will implicitly or automatically call the parent class constructor. So parent class constructor should be executed first, followed by the child class constructor. This is all about the constructors. Okay, in case of general. So let's go deep into the constructor concept. Okay, what if there is a parameterized constructor in the parent class? Okay, in this case, a parent class is having a normal constructor. It's not a parameterized, non-parameterized constructor is there. So in this case, let's say this has some value, say int a. Okay, I'll just say plus a. Okay, along with the value I'm printing. So this is one constructor. This time, this is not non-param. It's not a non-parameterized constructor. It's a parameterized constructor. Okay, it has some parameters. So in this case, what will happen? You see, automatically I'm getting the error. Okay, automatically I'm getting the error because the child class constructor has to call the parent class constructor, but it's unable to call because Earlier, this parent class constructor is having no parameters, but this time the parent class constructor is having a parameter means. So it's trying to call, but it's unable to call because it has to pass some value, right? Here to this particular parameter, it has to pass value. Otherwise, it will not be able to call. So that's the reason what we have to do is how to make it possible is class 2 colon type base here. Okay, type colon base, and in the base, just give the value that you want to pass to this constructor of the parent. Okay, so just give something like 10. Okay, so error will be gone. You see, error is gone. Now class 2 constructor can automatically call the parent class constructor and it's passing the argument 10. 10 will go and fall into the A, and so same thing will repeat, guys. When you create an object for the child class, the child class constructor will be called, but child before the child class constructor is executed. Okay, the child class constructor is now calling the parent class constructor, and along with that it's passing the argument also to this particular parameter. Okay, 10 will go and here. So class 1 constructor is called, 10 will be printed, and after that class 2 constructor is called, will be printed. Run this code. Class 1 constructor is called 10, class 2 constructor is called, will be printed. Okay, this is another one. Next what? Let's say now both this child class constructor and parent class constructor has a parameter. Okay, let's say here int b. Okay, int b plus b. Okay, plus b. That's it. Now the problem will come here because when you create an object for the child class, automatically the constructor is being called. It's unable to call because this constructor is not empty now. It's not a non-parameterized constructor. It's a parameterized constructor. Okay. So here we have to pass some value to this b, right? So here I'll pass 9. Okay. 9 will go and fall into b, and here class constructor is called 9 should be printed. Before this child class constructor is executed, it gets executed, the child class constructor will automatically call the parent class constructor. So just understand the flow, guys. This one is calling child class constructor. Child class constructor is calling parent class constructor. Okay. This value 10 will go into the parent class constructor. This value 9 will go into the child class constructor parameter. Okay. So run this code. First parent class constructor, class 1 constructor is called 10, and class 2 constructor is called 9. Okay, it's called and 9 value got printed. Fine. Now what if there is a situation where I want to pass the same value b to the, so whatever I am passing 9, right, this 9 should go into b, and at the same time this same 9 should go into a also. In that case, what I will do, so you just replace this 10 with b. That's it. Here 9 will go and fall into b. The same b you are passing to the a. Okay. So one time you are passing an argument, and the same argument is being passed to both child class constructor and also parent class constructor. That means class 1 constructor is called 9, class 2 constructor is called 9 should be printed this time. Class 1 constructor is called 9, class 2 constructor is called 9. Okay. So this is all about the constructor. Okay. So in detail I explained about the constructors now. Okay. Fine. Now what if you create, this is the last item for this inheritance, and there is one more item, that is types of constructors, all type of inheritance also. Okay, these are the two items that are pending as part of this session. I'll explain these both items for you. Okay, so few more details that you have to understand about inheritance. So let me explain that. So here I'll remove the constructors. Okay, so I'll make the code simple again. Okay, this one also I'll remove. Okay, now fine. So here I'll remove this. That's fine. So guys, there is a situation where what will happen if you create an object for the child class and assign it to the, here guys, here you created an object for which class? Child class, right? Class 2. Class 2 is a child class. And assign this object to the variable of which class? Again class 2 only. Okay, you created an object for the child class and assigned that to the object of the child class only. So same class only. But what if I do like this? Class 1. What will happen? Is it okay? Yes, it's still okay, guys. Because class 1 is a parent class. Class 1 is a parent class. Okay, class 1 is nothing but the parent class. So creating an object for the child class and assigning that object to the variable of the parent class is fine. But what is the difference? I'll explain that. Okay, so what is the difference? I'll explain that. For now, let's keep it class 2 only. Class 2 is equal to new class 2. Let's say here I'll create some, you see this class 2 is a child class of the class 1. that is variable and method of the child parent class will be inherited automatically by the child class here. And along with that, the child class has its own method, its own variables and methods. Let's say int b is equal 10 is there, and here public void sample2, I'll say sample2. This variable and method belong to the child class case, okay, directly. Okay, it's not inherited. These variables and methods are not inherited from the parent class. They belong to the child class, specific to the child class. Now here console.writeline inside sample2 method. Okay, inside sample2 method I'll write. Now if I create an object for the child class, what will happen? Using this child class object reference, how many variables and methods I can access? Two variables and two methods. Two variables are inherited. Two members are inherited by the child class, whereas two members are belong to the child class only. That means total how many it will become? 2 plus 2. Two are inherited, two belong to the same child class. When I create an object for the child class, using the object reference, I can access 4 properties. Two from the parent class, two from the parent class which are inherited by the child class, two from the same child class only. So just see here, C2 dot A inherited property. Okay. So CW C2 dot P specific to the child class only. Okay. This variable belong to the child class only. Then C2 dot sample. Okay. Parent class method which got inherited into the child class with the help of object reference of the child class we are able to access. Then sample 2. Okay. Directly this belong to the child class. So using the object reference of the child class and I can access. So all the 4 properties I can access. Okay, by creating an object for the child class and assigning to the variable of the same child class, I can access all the properties of the parent and child classes. Okay, all the inherited properties and classes specific to the child class also can access. Run this code, it will work. You see 9, 10, insert sample2, everything is working fine. But what will happen if I create an object for the child class and assign it to the variable of the parent class? Is it okay? Yes, it's okay to create an object for the child class. It's okay to create an object for the child class and assign it to the variable of the parent class. But what will happen? You see already some errors are coming. Okay. Here, the moment you create an object for the child class and assign to the variables of the parent class, using this object reference in such kind of situation, you can only access the inherited properties only. You cannot access the child specific properties. You see, B is a child specific property, class 2 specific property, which cannot be accessed. Error is coming. This is not possible. Similarly, sample2 also. Sample2 is a method which directly belongs to the class 2. By creating an object for the child class and assigning it to the variable of the parent class, using the object reference, you can only access the inherited properties. Okay, the class specific properties you cannot access. Only A and sample can be accessed. Hope you are able to understand what will happen if you create an object for the child class and assign it to the variable of the parent class. Means only the parent class inherited properties in the child class can be accessed using such kind of object difference of the child class. Okay, you see 9 and insert sample method got printed. So hope you understood, guys. Only parent class members in the child class can be accessed. If you create an object for the child class and assign it to the variable of the parent class, then only the parent class members in the child class can be accessed using that object reference. Fine. Fine. This is all about the inheritance, and there is only one topic left in inheritance, guys. That is types of inheritance. Okay, there are different types of inheritance. What are the different types of inheritance we have? Let me explain. Inheritance types. Okay, first type is single inheritance. What does single inheritance means? There is a parent class. Okay, and there is only one child class. This child class is inheriting the properties from the parent class. Then okay, this already I have shown you the example, right? You see here, class 2 is a child class, class 1 is a parent class. So there is one child class, there is one parent class, and if the child class is inheriting the properties of the parent class, that is called a single inheritance. Then we have multi-level inheritance. Next type is multi-level inheritance. What is this multi-level inheritance? Multi-level inheritance. In multi-level inheritance, there is a grand parent class. Okay, and under the grandparent class there is a parent class. Okay, you see it's like multi levels. Okay, here only single level, but here multi levels. Okay, a child class inheriting the properties from its parent class, and that class is again inherited by the another class. We call that as a child class here for now. Child class. And this class can also be inherited by other one, that is grandchild. Okay, grandchild's child and so on. Okay, this multi-level will continue. Okay, so here in this example, if I have to show you, there is a class 1, class 2. I can create one more class, that is class 3. I can create public class, public class, class 3. I'll say I'll make this class 3 a child class of the class 2. This is what is the situation. Okay, class 2 is a child of the class 1, whereas class 3 is a child of the class 2. So in this situation, if I create an object for the grandchild class, that is class 3 here, all the properties of the parent and grandparent can be accessed. Okay, class 3 is equal to new class 3. Simply say CW C3 dot A can access from the grandparent. It is coming, right? For class 3, for class 3, class 1 is a grandparent. From the class 1, this variable is coming. C3 dot B. You see, it's okay. And if I create one more thing here, the direct class 3 itself, int C is equal to some 7. Here I can access that one also. Console.writeline class 3 dot C. Done. Okay. This is what is a multi-level inheritance, guys. Multi-level inheritance. Okay, multiple levels of inheritance it will be there. Okay, multi-level of inheritance will be there. Here only single level inheritance, here multi-level inheritance. Then we have the next type of inheritance as hierarchical inheritance. Okay, hierarchical. Okay, hierarchical inheritance. In hierarchical inheritance, there is a one parent class, and this parent has multiple children. This parent has multiple child classes. Child class 1. Generally in real world also we have the same thing, right? A single parent can have multiple children, right? They can have multiple children, child 3 and so on. Okay, so this is called as hierarchical inheritance, guys. This is called as hierarchical inheritance, where there are multiple children inheriting the properties from the, okay, if you are there in your family and you have a brother or sister, assume that along with you, your brother and sister also will inherit the properties from your parent. Okay, child 1 is inheriting the properties from the parent, child 2 is inheriting the properties from the parent, child 3 is also inheriting the same properties from the parent. So what I'll do here is I'll say class A here. Instead of class 1, I'll say class A, and here I'll say class 1. I'll remove this, and here I'll make it as a class 1 inherits class A. I'll remove this part, and here class 2, let's say this is class 2. Class 2 also inherits class A. Okay, class 2 also inherits class A. Class 1 inherits class A, class 2 also inherits class A. Now here, if I create an object for the class 1 or class 2 here, both will have the properties of the parent class. Okay, here 2 children are inheriting the properties. I can create one more child also, public class 3 also I can create. Public class, any number of classes can inherit the properties from the parent class. Okay, that's what is the funda. Class 3 is also the child of the class A. So here we have 3 classes which are the children of the class A only, which class A is a parent. Now if I create an object for the class 1, which is one of the child of the, okay, which is one of the child of the class A, okay, which is one of the child of the class A, and here I'll say CW C1 dot A. You see I can access. Okay, from the parent class the variable A is coming, that is class A, the variable A is coming, that's fine. Again I'll create an object for the class 2, C2, which is another child of the class A, new class 2. Here I'll say console.writeline C2 dot, here also I'll get A. This is also fine. You see A is coming here, here also it's inherited. The child class 2 also it's inherited. Child class 3 also it will be inherited. C3 is equal to new class 3. Okay, so here also C3 dot A will come here. Okay, So this is what I mean. This is called as hierarchical inheritance. You can have any number of child classes of a single parent class. Then the next level of inheritance is multiple, which is not supported. Okay, in case of classes in inheritance of C sharp, multiple inheritance is not supported. It's not possible. Multiple inheritance is not possible in C sharp as part of the classes. Multiple inheritance not supported by C sharp for classes. For classes, when you try to implement multiple inheritance for the classes, it's not supported by C sharp, guys. So what actually multiple inheritance means is, okay, so children having multiple parents. Okay, here parent 1 will be there, here parent 2 will be there, parent 1, parent 2. Now there is a child want to inherit the properties not only from one parent but also from multiple parents. Is it possible? It should not be possible. Okay, in case of classes in C sharp, okay, this is not supported, this part is not supported, guys. Okay, a child inheriting the properties from both parent 1 and parent 2 is not supported. So let me create an example for this. I'll say class A, I'll say class B here, remove this, and here I'll put public int b is equal to sum 10. Okay, here only one variable I'll create to make it simple. Okay, you can have methods and variables, but I'm just putting only variable here. Public int A is equal to 9, public int B is equal to 10. Now I'll remove this part. Now I'll say public class 1. Class 1 can only inherit one parent, but I'll try to inherit multiple parents. Is possible or not, we'll see. Class A, comma, class B. Is it possible? Not possible, not supported. You see, already error is coming. Only one class you can inherit. Cannot inherit. You see, only one class you can inherit. A child class can inherit only one class, one parent, but two parents cannot be inherited by a child class. That's what I am saying. So in C sharp, as part of classes, multiple inheritance is not supported. Okay, this process is not supported. And finally, one more type of inheritance is there. That is nothing but the hybrid inheritance, which is also not supported. I'll tell you why. What's the reason? What does hybrid mean? First, we have to understand. In hybrid, there will be a parent class. Okay, this parent will be inherited by two children. Okay, this is okay. Child 1, child 2 classes are inheriting the parent class. And now these two children are inherited by grandchild. Okay, that means these are parent 1 and parent 2 for a child, right? Okay, grandchild class. So this is not possible. You see, multiple inheritance is not possible where a grandchild cannot inherit from two parent classes. Okay, this lower section of this hybrid model, okay, it looks like a diamond symbol or whatever it is. So upper part is fine. Parent being inherited by two children is fine. That is hierarchical inheritance. That is fine. But at the bottom part of this hybrid, that is where a single grandchild is inheriting from two children. This is not possible. Okay, the below part is not possible or not supported in C sharp. Okay, this part is fine, upper part is fine, but lower part is not fine. Okay, so if I divide like this parent child 2 is fine, but grandchild 2 parent is not fine. Okay, that's why hybrid inheritance is also not supported by C sharp. So guys, these are the different types of inheritance we have in C sharp. That is single, multiple, hierarchical, multiple, single, multi-level, hierarchical, multiple, and hybrid. But multiple and hybrid are not supported by C sharp. So guys, with this, we are done with the inheritance topic. I explained in and out of inheritance as part of C sharp. Okay, starting from how a particular class can inherit the properties of the parent class and what is this parent-child relationship, and what are the other names for parent class and child class, and what if the parent and child class has a constructors of their own, what will happen if the parent class has a parameterized constructor and child class also has a parameterized constructor, then what we have to do, how the things will happen, how to use a base to resolve these problems, and what will happen if you create an object for the child class and assign it to the variable of the parent class. Okay, and also different types of inheritance like single, multi level, hierarchical, multiple, and hybrid type of inheritance. Everything I covered in this session. So that's all for this session. In the next session, I'm going to cover another C#.NET topic for you. Till then, see you. Bye bye.